Okay, so I want you to think about the people you text or call most often. Got them? Now, here's a question you've probably never asked. What's the shape of that group? Do they all know each other? Are they from completely different parts of your life? Is it a tight cluster or a scattered map? It might sound like a small detail, but researchers have discovered that this pattern matters more than we think. Yale professor Marissa King spent 15 years studying questions like this, and she found that the shape of your friendships predicts more about your life than almost anything else. Your cognitive functioning, your emotional resilience, your satisfaction at work, all of it is shaped by the invisible structure of your relationships. By the end of this video, you'll understand the three fundamental network shapes, and you'll learn how to use it to your advantage. I'll also show you where you can analyze your own network for free. This is part of a series on the hidden structures shaping your life. If that's something you want more of, hit subscribe. Let's begin. First, let's be clear what we're talking about. A network isn't your LinkedIn connections. It's not the people you follow on Instagram. It's the actual structure of your real relationships, the people you'd call in an emergency, the colleagues you actually talk to, the friends who show up. Every one of us has a network. We just never look at it. King's research shows that most people's networks are accidents, determined by where we happen to live, where we happen to work, who happens to be around. We drift into patterns without ever choosing them. But here's what makes that worth paying attention to. Graphite and diamonds are made of exactly the same thing. Same atoms, same carbon, but one is soft and common. The other is hard and rare. The difference isn't the elements, it's how they're arranged. Your relationships work the same way. You can have the same number of friends as someone else, but depending on how those connections are arranged, your life goes in completely different directions. That's what we're talking about. The arrangement, the pattern, the shape. King found that most social networks tend to organize themselves into three recognizable shapes, and once you start noticing them, you begin to see them everywhere. The first is what researchers call the expansionist. This shape is wide, scattered, reaching in many directions. Think Jimmy Fallon. He seems to know everyone. New faces, different worlds, constant variety. Expansionists are great at bringing in new information. They're exposed to ideas and opportunities that denser networks never see. But there's a trade-off. Wide networks mean weaker ties. Expansionists know many people, but deeply know few. A second shape shows up very differently. Researchers call this one the broker. This shape isn't wide, it's bridged. Brokers sit between different worlds, connecting people who would never otherwise meet. Think Steve Jobs. He didn't invent calligraphy, he didn't invent computers, but he was the bridge between those two worlds. That's what a broker does. Takes something from one place and brings it somewhere new. The majority of new ideas come from recombination, from mixing worlds that don't normally mix. Brokers are where innovation lives. But the trade-off? Brokers can feel like they don't fully belong anywhere. They're always the bridge, never the destination. And then there's the third shape, the convener. This shape is dense, tight. Everyone knows everyone. Think Oprah. Not because she knows the most people, but because she sits at the center of a deeply connected world. Her inner circle is a web, not a collection. In convener networks, trust runs deep and information spreads quickly because everyone already knows each other. But the trade-off is less diversity and fewer new ideas. Dense networks eventually reinforce what the group already believes. Here's where it gets personal. Most people hear these types and think, I'm an expansionist, or I'm a convener, and then they treat it like a personality test. Fixed, destiny. But that's not how it works. 1 out of 3 people don't have a clearly defined style, and 20 to 25% have a mixed style. They shift depending on context. Steve Jobs wasn't only a broker. In moments requiring deep trust, he convened his inner circle tightly. In moments requiring reach, he expanded. He used all 3 types. He just had a home base. The types are tools, not identities. The question isn't which one you are, the question is which one you need right now. So how do you know which type to use? Look at the problem you're trying to solve. If you need deep trust, if you're building a team, raising a family, creating a culture, you need a tight-knit network. People who know each other, who've been through things together. If you need fresh ideas, if you're stuck, if your industry is shifting, you need to be the bridge between different worlds, connecting dots that don't normally connect. If you need wide reach, if you're spreading a message, launching something, you need a broad network. Lots of weak ties, diverse circles, maximum distribution, different problems, different networking types. But here's the catch. Without being aware of our natural network shape, we stay stuck because it feels comfortable. It requires minimal effort, and that is exactly the problem. Because Marissa King's research is clear, relationships aren't optional. People with strong social connections have a 50% higher survival rate than those with weak ones. Same impact as quitting smoking. Your network doesn't just affect your career, it affects how long you live. So the expansionist needs to do what feels unnatural. Build a few deep anchors. Not because it's comfortable, because when life gets heavy, 1,000 acquaintances won't answer the phone. The broker needs to do what feels unnatural. Stop connecting for a moment and actually belong somewhere, not as the bridge, as the destination. The convener needs to do what feels unnatural. Reach out to the periphery, the former co-worker, the acquaintance, because breakthroughs almost never come from your inner circle. They come from the edges. It's easy to stay in your lane. It's comfortable. But relationships are too important to leave to instinct. The skill isn't knowing your shape. The skill is having the courage to act against it. That's how you build a life that's both deep enough to sustain you and wide enough to grow you. If you're curious about your own network type, Marissa King created a companion site for her research. You can answer a few questions and see what shape your network actually takes. The link is in the description. It's important to see your network's shape, because then you'll start to notice both its strengths and blind spots. And relationships are too important to leave to instinct. Sometimes growth means reaching outside your usual circle. Sometimes it means going deeper with the people already around you. And if networking has always felt uncomfortable for you, the next video will help. We'll break down how relationships with complete strangers actually form and how to get better at building them.